Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Hello everyone, my name is Iyzman dengan MIJIRUN with the metric number of 2 BI221100048, and I'm a software engineering student here in University Malaysia Sabah. Before I start, I would like to say thank you to all of you, and especially to Madam Aisha, who is conducting this course, organization management, for taking your time to listen to my talk. My topic for today is rather simple, but I do believe that it might at least give you some awareness and a little bit knowledge on how this issue is applied to your daily lives. So, without further ado, I would like to first explain to you what my topic is, and we get further into that. My topic for today is about unethical issues in a workplace. So, why does unethical issues is something that that is commonly happen in an organization or even a companies who are basically groups who are working together. Why is it so important that we know this issue, and how do we overcome it? So first we need to know what being ethical is, because by knowing what being ethical is, we can easily understand what being unethical is, because it's basically just the opposite of being ethical. So first things first, what is the meaning of being ethical? Being ethical is just simply defined as applying the moral principles in our daily lives. But how about being ethical in a workplace? Being ethical in a workplace means that any moral code that guides the behavior of an employee with respect to what is right and also what is wrong. This behavior also applies to every individuals who are working together in a group. It has already been the responsibility of the organization itself to exemplify the standards of being ethical to every employee, so that they can have a better understanding of the importance of this behavior and how is it applied to their work as they are working together. Being ethical in a group work, because it's important because everyone is basically working together to achieve something, and they always solve problems together, and every individual is divided based on their expertise, which means that everyone is expert on something that not others do. It's better for groups to do this because it saves time and also reduce the workload of everyone just by working together based on what they are good on, basically. However, the act of a person determines the quality of group work. If one fails to give the cooperation in a work together, possibly the organization itself might not be able to achieve what they desire, resulting in work being unsuccessful. The reason why this happens, because it relates to my statement just now, that everyone is basically an expert in something and they are working based on what they're expert. So if one fails, there would be like a missing part in our work. So let me give you an example of how does this apply to a work. Like, for example, software developers or even a web developer, there are two types of web developers. There's a front-end developer and a back-end developer. The front end does the design of the website, and the back end is designing what the website should do. What do they need to what will happen if I press this button? What will happen if I do this? What the website should do, basically. Calculations and everything is done there. So the code that is used for the front end is different from the code that is used for the back end developing. They both use the different programming languages, which is only be done by those who are expert in it. Basically, those who are expert in back end will do the back end, and those who are expert in the front end will do the front end. So possibly the most front end can do what the back ends do, and most back end can cannot do what the front ends can do. So uh, if they even try to do the back end, they might need a lot of time to learn how to do this and how to do that, other than the back end itself, who has already have the experience on solving the problems or even doing something. Just like this example also relates to can be exemplified also to what the front end could do. So basically both of them have their own expertise on something. It is different, and just by working together they can create a beautiful and maybe dynamic website, and it can result in a good way. If one of them fails, possibly the backends would probably do what the front end should do, and it is not the same as what the expert should do, because they're not expert in that thing. So that is basically it about what being ethical is. So now we know about what being ethical is, and it might even give you some understanding about why is it important. We can now move to what an ethical behavior is. So, what is an ethical behavior? An ethical behavior is defined as the conduct when an individual, a professional, or even a company does anything that is considered as inappropriate or deemed as inappropriate because it is against the social standards. However, for my talk, I would like to highlight about this one ethical issue that is very common nowadays, and that is by taking credit for others' hard work. Have you ever had someone who took credit for your hard work? This action is very, very common nowadays. It can be in a group presentation, your school project, or even a work that's your office in office. In this case, how did you feel? And how did you overcome it? This type of situation is very unpleasant and unfair for everyone who have already experienced. You get blamed when things go wrong, and they get credited for things that went perfectly. This behavior really violates the moral code of being ethically fair and honest. If someone falsely claims a piece of credit, they are most likely felt that the person who actually does the work is unworthy. For me, this idea is rather just simple. Just reduce the word of I and encourage the more use of we. However, there are more examples to this on how we can avoid this type of behavior. One of the ways to avoid this behavior is by maintaining your composure. If someone takes credit or work, if you found someone who's taking credit for work that you've done on a project or even the presentation, the first thing that you need to do is allow yourself time to maintain your composure. Yes, it is really upsetting that you learn that you haven't received any credit, but if you respond before you've calmed down and reevaluate your situation, it can be challenging to control your feelings. Allowing yourself to give time and manage your emotions and respond tactfully can help you maintain your professional relationships and even present your issues with grace. Next is going to be evaluating your composure. Before we demand a credit on the project or work, try to think again about whether the project or presentation that you're making is relevant for you to get a credit for. Is it really relevant for you to take a credit? If you feel like you've done as much as the others or the other team, then it is considerable to ask for credit. If it's not, then try to avoid getting one. The main point here is that don't feel like you need to get credited for every single thing you do. This can be done by maintaining your control, just as said as my previous point. In other words, try to remember things can happen accidentally, and also consider the moments you may have accidentally asked credit for something you didn't do. Last but not least, on my last point, model a good credit sharing. Instead of making accusations, try asking questions like, for example, how can we how can we what is the best how can we make sure that all of our work is recognized? Give suggestion like adding a slide at the end of the presentation who has the names for everyone who contribute to this presentation, even though some of them will only contribute a few. In this way, they will surely remember about crediting each other, maybe on your next work. In conclusion, having a good reputation for being consistently ethical from how we source and build products leads to gaining trust to more people, making them want to do more business with us. Even social media ethics is really important nowadays for one's reputation. It is also important to understand that this it is also important to understand this because it can stimulate positive employee behaviors that can lead to organizational growth, just as unethical itself can inspire damaging headlines that leads to organizational problems and demise. That is all from me. Thank you for spending your time, and thank you.